You're not sad. You're too lucid to keep pretending. That's what hurts. Lucidity. The moment when the world loses its makeup and you see what has always been there, but you didn't have the courage to accept. Life isn't difficult. It's a meticulous cycle of frustration, maintained by a system that was never meant to satisfy you. You feel it, even if you try to hide it. There is a constant weight, a silent absence that grows even in moments of victory. You achieve something, and soon you need something else. You fall in love, and soon you are afraid of losing. You try to live, but with every step you seem to be moving further away from yourself. It's not just you. Arthur Schopenhauer saw this truth long before anyone else. For him, life is not a gift, it is a burden. Pleasure, when it exists, is only the temporary absence of pain. Desire is a prison, and nature, which we romanticize so much, is a spectacle of indifference. From the moment we are born, we are caught up in a cycle of suffering. We want what we don't have. We suffer when we don't get it. We suffer again when we get it, and realize that it didn't fill the void. Nothing is enough. Nothing will ever be enough. And when the mask starts to slip, when you begin to suspect that maybe none of this makes sense, the system offers you distractions: work, religion, love, consumption. All stories are designed to keep you distracted from the truth that lies behind the silence. But there comes a time when the noise is no longer enough. Goals lose their meaning, speeches sound empty, and then silence arrives, and with it the inevitable question: what is left when everything they promised fails? In this video you will dive into Schopenhauer's brutal view of existence. You will understand why life oscillates between pain and boredom, why happiness is a biological fraud, why nature has never been on your side, and why perhaps what you feel is not weakness, but a rare kind of lucidity. It's not about motivation, it's about truth. And truth here doesn't ask for permission. It arrives, tears things apart, and transforms them. Imagine a dog running in circles trying to bite its own tail. For a second it looks like it's going to succeed. And when it finally does, what does it feel? Brief relief. Soon after, pain. And then it starts again. Now take the dog out of the picture and put any human being in its place. Replace the tail with the idea of happiness, and you have the most honest portrait of existence. Schopenhauer understood this like few others. For him, life is governed by a relentless principle: desire. Everything we want, whether it be love, money, or recognition, is born out of an absence, a hole that consumes us from within. We desire because we lack. We suffer because we desire. And even when we get what we want, peace does not come. Pleasure, as he said, is not a continuous experience, but only a momentary interruption of pain. Have you noticed this? The achievement that seemed to be the peak of your happiness is short-lived. A new emptiness takes its place, and soon another desire arises. Like a prisoner changing cells, you move, but you never leave prison. Schopenhauer called this trap the pendulum of existence. On one side, the suffering of deprivation. On the other, the boredom of satiety. We are never really well, just too busy trying to be. That is why even those who have everything often plunge into despair. Robin Williams, Anthony Bourdain, idols, admired, complete in the eyes of the world, and yet empty. For Schopenhauer, wealth and fame are not achievements, they are traps. The more you achieve, the less there is left to desire. And when there is nothing left to desire, what remains? Nothingness. Boredom. The silent horror of a life that has lost its meaning. And as if that weren't enough, biology confirms it. The dopamine system in the brain releases pleasure before achievement, in anticipation, not in fulfillment. Pleasure is bait. You run, you strive, and when you achieve it, it disappears. An endless cycle, a game that cannot be won, only played until exhaustion. That's why so many people live jumping from goal to goal, from passion to passion, from addiction to addiction. Because each achievement kills a desire, but it also kills the only thing that keeps us going, the illusion that maybe this time, happiness will be real. So Schopenhauer proposes something brutal and simple. Want to suffer less? Desire less. Live with the minimum. Refuse the game. But here's the paradox. Not wanting to desire is already a desire. Even escape, when desired, imprisons. If desire is suffering, and the absence of desire is boredom, what is left? The answer lies in nature. And it is not kind. You are taught to believe that the world is beautiful, that nature is harmony, that the universe has purpose, that there is cosmic justice waiting for you at the end of the tunnel. But what if all of this is a lie? Schopenhauer tore this veil away with brutal lucidity. Nature does not care about you. It is neither good nor evil. It is indifferent, cold, blind, a cog in the wheel of survival, pain, and repetition. Life, for him, was not a gift. It was a condemnation. Think of the forest you see in travel photos. Now look closely. There, cubs are devoured before they learn to walk. Diseases spread like pests. Predators tear their prey apart. Is that what you call beauty? For Schopenhauer, it is a spectacle of horror disguised as a landscape. Every living being there survives at the expense of another's death. That is the rule, not the exception. And what about human beings? From birth, we are fragile, dependent, conditioned to chase status, approval, money, as if each stage of life were a step toward fulfillment. But the truth is different. We grow up, we get sick, we lose those we love, we waste away, and then we die, alone or sedated, in silence or screaming. And even when we try to ignore this truth, the world screams back. Children die in war zones. People are born with incurable diseases. Families are destroyed by random tragedies. What would be the purpose of all this if there were a just God watching? Stephen Hawking, one of the greatest geniuses of our time, spent his life trapped in a slowly decaying body. If life had any shred of inherent goodness, this story would never have existed. But it does. And it is the rule, not the exception. Even in the animal kingdom, where the purity of nature should move us, all we see is suffering. Turtles are born and die before reaching the sea. Wildebeests are ripped open alive. Insects have their bodies parasitized, devoured from the inside out. That's it. That's the plan of creation. And no matter how hard you try to convince yourself otherwise, biology confirms it. Suffering is not a flaw in the system, it is the system. If we didn't feel pain, we wouldn't fight to survive. If we didn't fear death, we wouldn't chase after life. Suffering moves us, organizes us, keeps us in the game. It is the engine that turns the wheels of existence. But here's the cruelest detail. We are the only species that knows this. We know we're going to die. We know that everything ends. And yet we wake up every day pretending that we don't. Because accepting this truth paralyzes us. Schopenhauer understood before science did that pain is not just part of life. It is the very structure upon which everything is built. Nature doesn't care about your happiness. It just wants you to keep going, to run, to desire, to suffer. And when you're no longer useful, it discards you. So the question begs itself. If the world is this indifferent machine, why do we still try to find meaning? Perhaps the answer lies in what we do when the truth becomes unbearable. If everyone knew the truth, few would remain alive. The world is suffering, nature is indifferent, and happiness is a lie we tell ourselves. But then, how do we go on? How do billions of people wake up every day, go to work, fall in love, make plans, and pretend that any of it matters? The answer, according to Schopenhauer, is brutal. Lies. Humanity survives because it is an expert at deceiving itself. We create stories, religions, ideologies, dreams of progress. Each narrative acts as a painkiller, a refined distraction to mask the fact that we are spinning in circles, heading toward nothingness. Religion, for example, has been the ultimate sedative for millennia. The promise of heaven, divine justice, a greater purpose, a God who sees everything and rewards everything. But Schopenhauer saw no divinity in this. He saw despair. Religion is the common man's attempt to endure the unbearable, pain, loss, death. It is not born of faith. It is born of fear. If God were just, why would there be random suffering? Why do children die of hunger, disease, in wars they don't even know why they started? Why are so many lives destroyed for no apparent reason? The only coherent answer would be this: either God is cruel, or he simply isn't there. And when faith fails, another lie emerges: progress. You were taught that work dignifies, that effort builds a legacy, that everything will get better. But the truth is that progress is just a sophisticated distraction. We work our entire lives to pay bills, buy things that will have no value on our deathbed, and leave inheritances that will likely be squandered. Technology prolongs life, but it also prolongs suffering. It increases productivity, but it consumes the soul. And when we finally achieve something, boredom returns, relentless, demanding the next goal. The race never ends. The goal is always postponed. Satisfaction is always temporary. And love? We are told that it is the meaning of life, that finding the right person will bring happiness. But Schopenhauer was relentless. Love is a trick of biology, nothing more than an evolutionary mechanism to ensure reproduction. Desire, passion, attachment are ways for nature to keep us trapped in the cycle. Love is not divine. It is genetic programming with emotional side effects. If we are rejected, we suffer. If we conquer, we become frustrated. If we stay together, we face fights, routine, jealousy, and the certainty that death will one day separate us. Love, like any desire, ends where it began, in emptiness. And when all else fails, when neither God nor work nor love can numb us, we resort to total distraction: social media, TV shows, pornography, alcohol, daily doses of dopamine, anything to keep from stopping. Because if we stop, silence arrives. And in silence, the truth speaks. Modern neuroscience confirms what Schopenhauer already intuited. The human brain is programmed to avoid reality. When pain is unbearable, it activates chemical mechanisms to distort it. Dopamine creates false hope. Serotonin teaches us to accept the unacceptable. And emotional attachment transforms impermanence into comfort. You don't live reality, you live the version your mind allows you to tolerate. But what if for a second all the noise stopped? What if the mask came off? What if the truth spoke? Naked, cold, and impossible to ignore? That moment exists. And when it comes, not everyone survives it. There is a moment when everything falls silent. The voices cease, the distractions disappear, and the truth appears, naked, without masks, without metaphors. For some, that moment comes in a dark room, in the absence of a loved one, in the sudden realization that time is devouring everything. That is when the soul understands, once and for all, that there is no way out. Schopenhauer called this the awakening of the tragic spirit. It is when consciousness tears the veil of illusion and sees what has always been there, that all struggles have been in vain, that happiness is an interval between suffering, and that existence, deep down, has no direction, purpose, or justice. You don't have to be a philosopher to feel this. You just have to be alive long enough. Children perceive the fragility of their parents. Young people in the prime of their strength feel the dread of time. Adults, after achieving everything they wanted, discover that they are still empty. And the elderly, at the end of it all, face the reflection of a face they no longer recognize. History confirms this tragedy. The 20th century alone was a sequence of horrors: genocides, wars, bombs. Millions died believing in causes that would soon be forgotten. Empires were built and torn down, leaders celebrated and betrayed. Napoleon ended up exiled and sick. Caesar died at the hands of those he called allies. Life laughs last always. And even today, nothing has changed. People spend years preparing for professions they hate. They work to the limit to acquire things they will not have time to enjoy. They build families that will disappear in a generation or two, leaving no trace. Time swallows everything: memories, legacies, faces, names. Life is an expensive loan, and death charges cruel interest. Many cannot bear this realization. When the truth becomes inevitable, despair sets in. Depression, anxiety, existential breakdowns, these are all symptoms of the collapse of illusion. When the veil is torn and man finds himself naked before the absurd, there is no argument, belief, or dream left to protect him. Only emptiness. And in that emptiness, extreme decisions arise. Ernest Hemingway, Virginia Woolf, Kurt Gödel, brilliant minds who understood the truth and chose to leave the game. Not out of weakness, but out of lucidity. And they are not alone. Thousands every year reach the same point. There is no reason, there is nowhere to go, and continuing becomes an unbearable burden. Some philosophies have tried to offer a way out. Nietzsche talked about creating your own meaning. Camus proposed the challenge of living even in the face of absurdity. But for Schopenhauer, all of this is just another step within the illusion. The only true path, according to him, is denial. Don't desire. Don't expect. Reduce participation in the game of life to the bare minimum, like a monk who abandons all passions, all delusions, and accepts nothingness without resistance. But living like this requires more than strength. It requires complete abdication, a profound renunciation not only of the world but of oneself, and few are capable of this. That is why most return to noise, distraction, and lies. Because it is easier to keep pretending than to face what consciousness reveals when everything is silent. This is the truth that few can bear, and that almost no one dares to say out loud. Pain is not a mistake. It is not an accident. It is not divine punishment or a flaw in the system. It is the system itself. Human beings have been molded from their deepest core to suffer, not because of the cruelty of an invisible creator, but because the logic of life demands it. Suffering is what keeps the wheels turning. Hunger makes us search for food. Anxiety pushes us toward goals. Desire keeps us moving. The survival instinct is not a gift. It is a shackle. Schopenhauer saw this clearly long before science reached its findings. For him, we are not free. We are slaves to impulses we did not choose, living a life we did not ask for, and carrying a conscience that tortures us. The phrase that echoes in his philosophy is simple and devastating. Man can do what he wants, but he cannot want what he wants. Neuroscience today proves that he was right. The human mind was not designed for happiness. It was sculpted, molded, and forged solely to survive. This means that every impulse you feel, fear, desire, envy, attachment, exists to keep you running, never to make you satisfied. That's why you're never at peace. Because peace, to the brain, is a sign of danger. You will always want more. You will always think you need something else. Even when everything is fine, something will eat away at you inside. The dopamine that stimulates you doesn't come from achievement. It comes from pursuit. Pleasure only exists along the way, never at the finish line. And when you arrive, the emptiness returns. Like a rat in a maze, you run, believing you are close to the exit, but all you find are new walls. The system does not fail. It distracts you, rewards you, and then punishes you. On top of that, we carry a unique curse, self-awareness. While animals live in the present, humans relive the past and fear the future. We suffer twice. Once when something happens, and again when we anticipate that it might happen. And yet we call this intelligence. But what does this intelligence give us in return? Suffering, anguish, isolation. The mind, which should be our ally, slowly becomes a prison. Over time, it begins to fail. We forget names, places, memories. We lose our identity. And before we are erased by death, we are slowly emptied from within. Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, degeneration. The same mind that tortured us for decades abandons us in the end, and everything ends. But perhaps the cruelest thing is not death. It is the fact that even in the face of all this, we continue to pretend that it makes sense. We continue to smile in photos, achieving goals, posting catchy phrases, looking for some dose of hope in a system that was designed to crush us from the beginning. If you've made it this far, you've already realized it. You already know. You've felt it in your skin. Life is a trap, but awareness can be the key that exposes it. And now you have two options. Go back to the theater, or remain in the silence of lucidity. If you feel that you don't belong in this world of pink fantasies, show that you are willing to face reality. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and help this project continue to exist. With your support of any amount, you strengthen the truth in a world that thrives on lies. And if you've read this far, prove that you're committed to this journey. Write in the comments, "conscious pain," two words that the world avoids. But here, they mean power.